Let me guess, you want to make $1 million on Amazon. Well, to do that, you're going to need to understand keywords, how to research them, how to find them, how to analyze them, and how to prioritize them. In this video, I'm breaking down a masterclass on how top 5% sellers organically rank and dominate search results on Amazon, doing things like this, creating over 200 Amazon's Choice badges for a single product. Buckle in, guys. This is going to be a doozy. This is going to give you the tools that you need to be a 7- and 8-figure seller on Amazon. Let's do this. I've built and led multiple 7-figure Amazon brands. Now, I'm setting out to share how I did it, with radically transparent and detailed weekly videos. Join the journey with me and break free. Welcome to Heist. What is up, guys? If you are new to the channel, my name is Adam, and I've built and run multiple 7- and 8-figure brands on Amazon. In that experience, one of the things I've learned is the most critical skill is understanding keywords. Amazon is basically the largest e-commerce search engine in the world. It has massive amounts of buyers typing in keywords with buying intent that are highly converted into purchases. So if you can understand keywords and how to implement them into your product and rank organically, you basically win on Amazon. On the flip side, if you don't understand keywords, it is highly, highly difficult to be successful on Amazon unless you're a big brand. Grab a coffee, grab your favorite drink. This is going to be a deep dive masterclass on Amazon keywords. Let's head over to my computer. So before we break down my exact SOP process on keyword research, I just wanted to highlight what the outcome of successful keyword research can do for an ASIN. This product here was launched late Q3 of last year, so this is less than a year old. And you'll see here, I've obviously blurred out what the product is, but it's got the Amazon's Choice badge for over 200 keywords. Equally important, you'll see over here, over 700 keywords are ranked in the top 10 and almost 1,300 in the top 50. So just scrolling down, I've obviously blurred out what the actual keywords are, but you can see all of the words that this is ranked number 1 for. This one right here with almost 14,000 searches right now is the category leading term that people search for, and that'll have well over 40,000 monthly searches come Q4. But you can see here, right, it's just like non-stop number 1 rankings. This is a second page full of them, right? Non-stop number 1 rankings, a bunch of Amazon's Choice badges. Not all of them obviously high search volume, but plenty of them are. So how do we do this? Let's dive in and break down my SOP for this. So there is a 14-step process that I go through with keyword research, and we're going to go through each one of them step by step here. If you want access to this SOP, as well as all the formulas, all the data chops, all the details that we uncovered today, I'm going to open up this Google Sheets here once we hit 50 comments down below. So once we hit that 50 comments, I'm going to pin a comment at the top of the link to the spreadsheet. So if you've got questions about this video or you just want to kind of leave a comment for us, as soon as we hit 50, we're going to open this up so anybody that wants this can have access to it. So the first couple steps when you're getting into keyword research is to first understand the likely most relevant search term that customers are going to seek for your particular product. This doesn't necessarily need to be the leading search volume getter for the category, but it should be over 500 searches a month, and it should be hyper relevant to what shoppers are looking for your product. Once you have that, you'll have a pretty decent idea of what the actual market landscape looks like, and then you can start grabbing competitive ASINs that are either super successful in terms of sales or highly relevant or highly similar to what you're going to actually be selling. Why this is important is what we can do once we have those 10 competitors is we can look up where they're getting organic search results, and then we can ultimately determine where they're getting their sales, so we can make sure that we replicate that and even get more keywords than what they're actually achieving themselves. So using an example from a couple videos ago when I did my Reddit ads video, we're going to actually dive into the gardening market. So we, in that video, uncovered kind of a cool little market for gardening tool bags. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. You kind of get an idea here. There's a lot of canvas totes. There's kind of canvas gardening bags with tools. There's some bundles. There's some that have floral patterns here. This is actually the one that we identified in the Reddit video. So I did a little bit of research behind the scenes, and one of the most relevant terms for this category is going to be gardening tool bag. So once we've got that term, we're actually come into the Helium 10 Chrome extension here and hit the X-ray tool. I've got a link down below if you don't have Helium 10 already, but it is the tool that I use for keyword research, and I wouldn't recommend anything that I don't use, but it's super slick, and I think you get a bit of a discount if you don't have it already. So this is what that looks like when you pop this Chrome extension on, and then what I'm going to want to do here is, again, kind of go through here and look and see, you know, who are the top ranked ones, who are the relevant ones, and then which are the ones that are getting a lot of sales. And then I want to snag about 10 of them. You can do more than 10 ultimately over time, but for this analysis, we're just going to look at 10. So I'm going to stop by getting the one that has the most sales, and then I'm going to create a little ASIN list here, and I'll usually put a little note before, a little note beside it, just so I have a little reference on what it is. I'll grab the Martha Stewart one because that one's kind of a branded player. And again, I'm going to want to grab 10 here, and I'll get into why that is later. I'll throw this one in. Why I like to copy this link here too is it also gives you like a clickable link later. So if you ever want to see, hey, what is the data on this actual ASIN down the road, you can actually click through on that link and it'll take you to Amazon with the actual product. So I like to do it that way. This is one that's also quite successful and it's got a kit. Again, doesn't need to be like a essay on what the product is, but a couple notes help. This one has a floral pattern on it, so I'll put that in there. So we've got 6 so far. There's another one doing 18 grand. Even if they're ranked on the first page, if you've got some that are, I would say less than 3,000, you're probably not going to want to get them simply because they're likely not ranking very well organically. So you really want to find ones that are more successful. So that's why I'm kind of being a little bit deliberate about making sure that we grab ones that are a little bit more successful on here as well. And there's another one. It's got a bright color. I might kind of make that note. And there's another one that's doing pretty good. We'll snag that one. All right, so there's our 10. So you can obviously spend a little bit more time on this and even grab more than 10 and do multiple analysis, but that's like a quick, dirty way to look at it. Then what I'm going to want to do is come into, start this over, come into Cerebro. So you're going to want to come into keyword research in Helium 10, come down to Cerebro, the reverse ASIN, and then I'm going to actually plug all of these keywords in here. Just see it's not getting that last one. All right, then you just click that Get Keywords button. So what this analysis is doing, it's taking all of these ASINs and it's determining where are they ranking for a whole suite of keywords on Amazon. A couple of scrubs I like to do, I like to change this and make the minimum volume 100 searches a month. And then I like to change this to 1 word count just in case there's some single words. And then I only want to look at organic results, and then I'll apply that. So make a couple tweaks to the standard data spit out that Helium 10 has. And then what I do is I come in here and I want to export this to CSV. You can work in Excel, you can work in your spreadsheet of choice, but I like using Google Sheets just because it's online. I can send it over to my team that has access to it. So what I'm going to want to do here is this will kind of be our master data or our raw data output, keyword data output from Helium 10. And then I just basically import, go to upload, and then I just drag in this file that I just exported from Helium 10. And then I go replace data at selected cell, import data. And it is going to spit all of this data that came out of Helium 10 into the spreadsheet for us. So going back to the SOP, next up we want to do is run that Helium 10 Cerebro. We want to make a couple edits to it, export the CSV file, then we want to upload it. And one thing that I like to do is just clean up some of the columns because we're not going to need all of the columns. So I delete the Cerebro score. I definitely want to keep the search volume in there. I want to delete all of these columns up to position rank. Delete those columns. Delete the relative rank, competitive rank, all the way to these ASINs here. One thing that's a little bit weird about Cerebro is this position rank is basically the rating for this first ASIN that we plugged in. I don't know why they do it that way. But what I like to do is just copy these ones that I put over here. And then I like to paste special those and transpose them. And then these are all the ASINs here across the top. Again, these are clickable links. That's why I like to kind of transpose the data there. So if you ever want to look at them, you can do that later on. But that's going to be the core columns that we're gonna look at here. So this next step is where we start to get into the secret sauce. And this is something that doesn't come out of Helium 10, but is something that I like to do as part of the analysis. And it is adding a data field and calculating something that isn't within Helium 10. So I go here, I add column left, and I like to call this score. So what this is basically telling us is for each individual ASIN across a whole suite of thousands of keywords, where are all these different ASINs ranked? What I want to know is where are they ranked highly, number one, and I also want to understand where a lot of them are ranked highly. Because what that's going to tell me is where are these competitors getting their sales, but also what is hyper relevant and hyper important to this category for us to be successful. So that formula is basically coming in here to this new column we created, and then I want to count if any of these ASINs, so I'm going to highlight all these columns here, and then I go quotations less than 30. So I want to basically say, hey, for all of these 10 ASINs, if they're less than 30, I want you to count it. And then I hit enter. So boom, that's a score of 10. So this is basically saying for this keyword here, this gardening tool bag for women, all 10 of the competitive ASINs that I typed in are ranking in the top 30 positions for this keyword. So this is hyper relevant, and we absolutely want to have this keyword as part of our strategy to optimize for. So I carry that formula all the way down, and it's basically going to show you all these different keywords and what their score is. I like to sort by these. So I kind of select all those columns, I come to data, and I go create filter. And then what I can do here is I can sort by the most relevant terms here. So these are scores of 10, 9, 8, goes all the way down. For most categories, anything that's got a relevance or a score of 3 or better, I want to kind of keep those on my radar. So if we kind of come all the way down here, down to 3, we have 226 words where at least 3 of these 10 competitors, or 30% of the competitors, are ranked in the 30th position or better. So that's one of the key data cuts that we have. Kind of going back here to this SOP, we want to add this score column. And again, if you want access to this spreadsheet, as soon as this video hits 50 comments, I will pin a comment with a link. So drop a comment and you guys can get access to that. Next step is to create that sort filter so I can start to scrub data based on how relevant the terms are, and I can kind of rank order those. And then I want to copy this data over to its own spreadsheet where we're going to do secret sauce number 2 and do some additional analysis. So coming back over to our data output sheet, one thing I want to do before I create this additional new sheet for secret sauce 2 is come to this column A score. And I want to deselect 0, deselect 1, and deselect 2. So what this is basically doing is I only am taking over these keywords with a score of 3 or higher over to this additional analysis. Once I've got that scrub done, I like to copy these columns, and I like to leave this spreadsheet separate just in case I want to kind of chop up the data separately. I can leave it alone in its own sheet. Boom, and then I've copied these new ones over here. And I'm just going to name this competitive search volume analysis. And I'm going to add a bunch of rows here above this column. And this is an offshoot, this strategy I'm going to get into of a really cool video from Brandon Young. I'm going to leave the link in the description. What Brandon does is he looks at all of the competitive keywords and he likes to count the number of highly relevant words that each ASIN ranks for and uses that to determine how successful they are. One strategy I like to do, it's in a very similar vein, but I like to understand how much search volume or monthly searches that each individual ASIN ranks for across different kind of scenarios. So the first thing that I want to understand is keywords 3 plus relevance. I want to come in here and copy all of the search volume for anything that has a score of 3 or higher. So I'll come over and there'll be 280 or whatever it was words, 233. So when I add that up here, I look, there's over 411,000 monthly searches that appear to be very relevant for this category. The next thing I want to do is to understand for each individual ASIN, how many of them rank top 10 for these searches and how many of them rank top 30 for these searches. And that will indicate to me who are the alpha ASINs within this category that are actually highly ranked and doing a really good job with keyword optimization. And it's also going to identify the weaklings that are in this kind of top 10 competitors that I know I can take out. So we're going to add some more rows here and some more analysis. First one's going to be top 10 search volume that they rank for. And then the top 10 percentage of total. That was my water that just fell. So with those 2 rows added, we are now ready to add a formula for secret sauce number 2. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, this is part of the reason why you should. The stuff that we're about to get into in this step is not covered anywhere that I'm aware of. And people that are selling courses for $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 won't even scratch the surface of these kind of strategies. So we are about to go from people that are really, really good at Amazon to elite level people that will kick your ass at Amazon. And you're about to learn some of the strategies on how to do that. So with this formula, I'm going to go ASIN by ASIN. And if the ASIN is ranked organically in spot 10 or better, I want to add up the search volume for that particular term all the way down for every term that they're ranked 10 or better for. So again, once this video reaches 50 comments or more, I'll pin a link to where you can access this spreadsheet so you don't need to memorize this. But the formula is basically sum ifs, parens, and then I'm going to want to add up the search volume column here, comma. I'm going to want to do the exact same thing for this ASIN rank here. Boom. Then I go comma parens, less than or equal to, ampersand, and then 10. Boom. So what this is basically saying is that this particular ASIN here is ranked in top 10 or better for basically 18,000 monthly searches. And if you remember over here, we looked over here at the total number. So we can take that number 17,000 divided by the 400,000 total. Do a percentage. So for 4.3% of the total score of 3 or higher search terms, this ASIN here is ranked in the top 10 spots for it. Now the next one that we can do is basically the exact same thing, but we can look at top 30, which is in desktop. That's going to be basically front page stuff. Top 30 percentage of total. And this is a very similar formula to this, so I can just copy it over. Except instead of 10 here, I'm going to make this 30 instead of 10. So for that, it's 50,000 searches that they're top 30 for. So I can take this term here. So 12% of these total 400,000 plus relevant monthly searches, this particular ASIN is ranked in the top 30 spot. And then I just want to kind of hard code some of these formulas here. So the C formula, I want to hard code just so I can carry it over to other columns. Bada bing, bada bang. This B1, I want to hard code. And then up here, hard code that B. And then I want to hard code this C. And then I'm basically just going to carry this formula all the way through, and we'll see pretty clearly who's ranked well and who's not, and we can identify who our alphas are and who our weaklings are. Boom. So as I look across here, look at this guy right here, this ASIN right here. 95% of these 400,000 monthly searches, this ASIN here is ranked for in the top 30 spot. More than half of them, it's ranked in the top 10 spots. So this guy's really good. This guy's 81%, really good as well. 74%, 81%, 80%. So really good options here to look at. One way to kind of dig into this a little bit more is just to color code some of these. So you can do some conditional formatting here. Select that row, go to conditional formatting. You can do a color scale. So I can basically just say if they're less than 30%, they're not doing great, and that's a green light that they're actually not awesome. Yeah, let's say 50. And let's say if they're doing over 80%, they're legit. Color code that maybe red. Color code this one yellow. Done. So again, any of these red guys here, you can basically assume that they're really, really good at keyword ranking, and we can give those ones a little bit more of a look. This is the alpha ASIN right here, though. It's ranked for 95% of the key terms. We can just look them up on Amazon real quick. So yeah, so they've got the canvas bag with the kit, $55. Yeah, and these guys are doing 92 grand a month. So the reason that they're doing $92,000 a year, in addition to having a good offer, good pictures, all those other things, are they're really damn good at keyword research. So we want to pay close attention to these guys. So it's going to bring us to the next step in our SOP, and we'll kind of go back to here and look at the stuff that we just went over. So again, you want to determine for the category of searches and ASINs that you looked at, what is the total search volume of a score of greater than 3? In our case, it's a little over 411,000. The next steps are to add those formulas and rows to determine where each individual ASIN has a top 10 rank and a top 30 rank, and we're adding up the search volume that they've accumulated and determine what percentage of the total market size or share of monthly searches that they're getting access to in that top 10 and in that top 30. That then lets us know who some of our alpha ASINs are when we do some conditional formatting. So we looked at that color coding there and determined anybody that's in that red zone, they're damn good at Amazon, and we should pay attention to where they're ranking and how well they're doing for organic searches. So let's get into our third secret sauce step, which is the alpha ASIN step. So I'm just going to add a new sheet here, and I'm going to rename this one alpha ASIN. Okay, so let's go back to our data output. If you remember, we actually scrubbed this for a score of only 3 or better. Because this alpha ASIN might be ranked for some that are only scooped up by 1 or 2, we actually want to add those back in there. So it's going to be a slightly different data set. And I'm going to come over, it's this column H, so that's the alpha, but we'll just copy all this data over to the alpha ASIN sheet. Boom. And then we're actually going to delete all these ones that are not alpha because they don't deserve to be here. Okay. And then this score column, because it's really only one product that we're looking at, the alpha ASIN, I just changed this column to AA to signal the alpha ASIN. So we'll scoop that all the way down. Okay, so for this product, what I want to do with the alpha ASIN, I'll add a sort again to this data, filter sort. I want to come in here and I want to filter by where these guys are top 10. I mean, you can look at top 30 as well if you want to get a little bit more detailed. But generally speaking, I want to find out where this big dog is doing top 10 or better. And if you remember back before, more than half of the monthly searches in this market, these guys are ranking for. So it'll give us some additional insight there. It's also going to uncover some additional words that not all of those other ASINs even touched yet. So we're going to get a couple nuggets here, I'm sure, when we sort this data. So we want this to be less than or equal to 10. So we're looking at top 10 data here. Come down here and hit OK. All right, so let's figure out how many these guys are top 10 on. So there's 153 words that this alpha ASIN is ranking top 10 on. We want to know what those are and copy those in there. So I'm going to create a master list now. Master keyword list. So go back to our SOP just as a quick summary. So we've determined the alpha ASIN and where they're top 10 ranked. Now we're going to create a master list. We're going to fuse that one that we did at the outset, which is relevance of 3 or more. And then we're going to add the alpha ASIN in. We're going to dedupe that. And that's going to give us a really good idea on keywords in the market that are important. So come back to our data output. Get this back to 3 or more. All right, I'm going to add all those in there. Paste special values. Come to our alpha ASIN. Add those ones. Okay, so just kind of clean this up a little bit. So for the dedupe, because some of the ones that the alpha ASIN is ranked 10 for are also going to show up in that score of 3 or better. So we'll dedupe that. You basically come into data here, go to remove duplicates, and it's column B that we're looking to remove the dupes on. Okay, so it basically took 109 of the words that both the alpha ASIN as well as the score 3 or better rank for, but there's going to be some new ones that the alpha ASIN kind of added in here too. So any of these alpha ASIN ones are basically ones that they're ranking for that none of those competitors are that are in the top 30% or better of the market size. So we got some additional words. So what this basically gave us is 270 words now that I want to go optimize for, have a launch strategy for, have a pay-per-click strategy for. And when I do that and do it well, over the course of 30 to 90 days, you can rank on those and get data results and organic ranking and Amazon's choice badges similar to what I had at the start if you've got a good offer. Additional steps that you can take. I just looked at the alpha ASIN. Let's say I was doing a colorful bag and I wanted to look at somebody that was like super relevant to that. You can also do an analysis on hyper relevant competitors as well. So you can take the master keyword list with the score of 3 or better. You can take the alpha ASIN, and then you can do a separate analysis that looks specifically at very, very relevant products that are close to what your offer is as well. Fuse those all together, deduplicate them, and you're going to have a master keyword list exactly like this. So that was your masterclass on keyword research, guys. Remember to comment down below. As soon as we hit 50 or more comments, I'm going to pin my comment at the top with a link to that Google Sheet so you can have the SOP step by step, all 14 of them. You can have all those fancy formulas we put into the secret sauce, and you can look at all the data chops on how we compiled all that together so you can do it yourself. If you haven't subscribed and you're here for the first time, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. I drop content weekly, deep dive, high level stuff that 7 and 8 figure sellers are doing that I think is super valuable to people that they don't have to pay for. So I'd appreciate that sub. And next week, we are going to go over how to take these keywords and optimize them into a listing. So now that we've identified them, we've prioritized them, we'll figure out the best strategy to make sure that we rank and optimize for them with our listing construction. So until next week, guys, appreciate you being here. Hopefully it was valuable. Till next time. Cheers.